Hello there, it's Austin. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the iGulu F1 homebrewing machine, so let's get started. So the F1 is an all-in-one brewing system that functions as a temperature-controlled fermentation tank, which seamlessly transitions into a kegerator to dispense your beer once it's done. This setup gives you the opportunity to serve up to 1 gallon of homebrewed beer, as well as 5-liter commercial kegs and even carbonated water. When you open up the iGulu F1 box, first thing you find is a styrofoam insert that contains your drip tray, your tap handle, and your power supply, which for me in the US is a standard 120 volt plug. It also comes with a coupler for commercial 5-liter kegs. The only thing left in the box is the machine itself. The body of the machine consists of the insulated chamber, the compressor, the air pump, and the tap and touchscreen assembly. The build quality is nice, and it definitely feels like a solid, well put together machine. Opening up the lid on the top, you'll find the insulated heating and cooling chamber with the keg/fermenter inside. The tank itself is a 1 gallon clear plastic with the lid housing the liquid, gas, and pressure relief valves on top. The tap is connected to the touchscreen up top and has a spring-assisted return. With the machine plugged in and turned on, it wakes up and tells us hello. After a few seconds, we arrive at the main menu screen. This allows you to set up a fermentation, jump directly into cooling and dispensing, and of course all of your system options where you can change units, languages, and actually how you dispense the beer. With the machine set up and ready to go, it's time to start our first brew day with the iGulu Pale Ale Kit. I usually brew my batches all grain, but in the spirit of trying this machine out the way it was designed to be used, I wanted to see what kind of beer this machine was capable of making if you bought the kit and followed the instructions. The actual ingredients in the kit feature some Briess DME, which is good stuff, some priming sugar, which I won't be using, some hop extract, and some dry brewing yeast. The kit also comes with an RFID sticker, which is used to start the correct fermentation profile on the machine. The first step in the actual brewing process is cleaning and sanitizing the keg. After splashing a little bit of professional brewer's wash in the keg and rinsing it out, I'll fill it up with some Star San sanitizer and let it sit for a few minutes before adding in my 116 ounces of filtered water. The first thing the kit tells us to add is the hop extract. This is added in 3 separate packets, 2 labeled Mosaic Extract and 1 labeled Bitter Extract. After that, we'll add the dry brewer's yeast directly to the tank. Final ingredient of the kit is the DME or dry malt extract. The instructions specifically say do not stir it, which I imagine is to prevent any contamination from a spoon you might stir it with, so we'll let it drip down spookily into the bottom of the keg before putting on the lid dip tube assembly and sealing it with the swing clamp. The 1 gallon batch is now ready to be dropped down into the temperature controlled fermentation tank, where the last step of the brew day is attaching our liquid and gas lines. With the tap pulled all the way open, we'll feed the empty end of the liquid tube as far as possible before connecting it to the middle top port on the keg. The gas line coming from the inside of the fermentation tank is connected to the other available slot, and with the lid back on, we'll start our fermentation process by scanning the RFID tag included in the kit right over top of the iGulu logo on the side of the machine. This sets the fermentation profile for this batch, including any temperature ramps or cold crashes included in the fermentation process. This beer was scheduled to ramp from the low 60s Fahrenheit up to about 68 and then cold crash for 2 days. If you do have any power outages during the fermentation process like I did during this batch, the machine will offer to resume as soon as you get power back, but not until you press the button, so don't forget to do that. After 9 days, the LED on the front of the machine will turn from amber to green, and that means your beer is ready to enjoy, as soon as the carbonation calms down a bit. So a few initial impressions after the first brew and now drinking the first beer. I like that it offers temperature controlled fermentation. It's nice to be able to operate the machine with a CO2 tank or its own internal air pump. I also like that it offers the flexibility if you wanted to brew an all grain, and that's definitely on my list to do in the future. A couple things that I'm not a big fan of after the first brew. The fact that your fermentation tank is also your serving tank means that the beer is sitting on the yeast for the entirety of the time it's in the keg. It might clear up eventually if you let it sit long enough, but definitely if you move it around, it's gonna stir that yeast up again and make your beer cloudy. Another thing I noticed, pretty much this whole machine is plastic. I'm definitely a fan of stainless when it comes to kegs and faucets. Last thing I noticed, there's no real adjustment level to the pressure release on the fermentation tank. I was getting up to over 2 bar, which is over 30 PSI. That can definitely stress some yeast strains and might even lead to a little bit of an overcarbonation. As far as the beer itself goes, or this pale ale batch, it's pretty good. The hop flavor is a little bit muted, but that's something I've gotten using hop extracts before. The malt flavor is good, but it's pretty yeasty and fresh and kind of reminds me of a homebrewed beer, which I guess it is. I do think using Briess turn this off so I can keep talking about it. I do think the temperature-controlled fermentation and the oxygen reduction that you get from using the CO2 setup is definitely going to bump this way up the list over a traditional ingredient kit. Fitting for this channel, I'd say this is probably the best 1-gallon batch of beer that you can actually brew in 5 minutes. Cheers!